Brutal, the monstrous beast, loomed over Marshall, his jagged jaws dripping with saliva as he prepared to deliver the killing blow. Marshall, battered and broken, could only stare up in defiance, his sword lying just out of reach. He knew his end was near, but he refused to beg for mercy. From a distance, Emma saw the scene unfold. Her heart pounded in her chest as she nocked an arrow to her longbow. Her hands trembled, but her voice was steady as she chanted, "Super tier archery, wind god's arrow." The air around her shimmered as a vortex of wind gathered at the tip of her arrow. The power was immense, and she knew this shot had to count. She released the arrow, and it shot forward like a bolt of lightning, aimed straight at Brutal's head. But just as the arrow was about to strike, a sudden gust of wind intercepted it, sending it spiraling harmlessly into the ground. Emma's eyes widened in shock. Standing between her and Brutal was Lin Tion, his expression calm and calculating. He smirked, his voice dripping with mockery. "An elf, how lucky for me, I've got a few tricks of my own." Before Emma could react, Brutal's jaws snapped shut. Marshall's body went limp, his lifeless eyes staring into the void. The sound of bones crunching echoed across the battlefield, sending a wave of nausea through Emma. She fell to her knees, her hands clutching her bow as tears streamed down her face. "Mr. Marshall, no," she whispered, her voice breaking. Lin Tion stepped forward, his eyes gleaming with dark satisfaction. "Leave this to me," he said to Brutal, his tone commanding. "Go handle the Minotaurs." Brutal hesitated for a moment, but the authority in Lin Tion's voice was undeniable. He obeyed, lumbering off to join the fray elsewhere. Lin Tion turned his attention to Marshall's lifeless body. Without hesitation, he began to devour it, his form shimmering as he absorbed the fallen warrior's energy. The nearly level 80 experience was a feast for him, and he could feel his power growing with every bite. Emma watched in horror, her stomach churning. She wanted to look away, but she couldn't. Her grief turned to rage, and she clenched her fists so tightly that her nails dug into her palms. "You monster," she muttered, her voice trembling with fury. From across the battlefield, Austin saw what had happened. His heart shattered as he watched Marshall fall, and his grief quickly turned to blinding rage. "Marshall," he roared, his voice echoing like thunder. He charged forward, his massive shield sword cleaving through a minotaur as if it were made of paper. His eyes locked onto Lin Tion, and he barreled toward him with unstoppable force. Lin Tion turned to face Austin, his expression calm and unbothered. "You're coming at me with everything you've got? That's not how this game works," he said with a smirk. Austin's face twisted with fury. "You damned beast." "Super tier combat skill, mountain cracking slash," he bellowed, swinging his massive weapon with all his might. The ground trembled as the blade came crashing down, its aura tearing through the air like a tidal wave. But Lin Tion was ready. He activated his skill, no blade capture, and the attack passed through him as if he were a ghost. Austin's eyes widened in disbelief. "What, how?" he stammered. Before Austin could react, Lin Tion leaped onto his back. "Super tier magic skill, brutal roar," he shouted, his voice amplified to a deafening volume. The roar shattered the air, reducing nearby rubble to dust and sending shockwaves across the battlefield. Austin's body went rigid as the sound waves tore through him, his brain turning to mush. White matter oozed from his nose and ears as he collapsed to the ground, lifeless. Lin Tion wasted no time. He began to devour Austin's body, his power growing even further. "If you're going all out, don't blame me for doing the same," he muttered, his voice cold and detached. Emma watched in despair as another comrade fell. "Lord Austin, no," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Her grief was overwhelming, but it quickly turned to a burning rage. Her eyes glowed with a pure white light as she activated the elf tribe's divine skill, Archer's Focus. Her senses sharpened, and her bow hummed with power. She could see everything, every movement, every weakness. Lin Tion felt a chill run down his spine. He ducked behind a pile of rubble just as an arrow whizzed past, embedding itself into the stone wall behind him. "Damn, she's using that bow like a sniper rifle," he muttered, pulling the arrow from his shoulder. The pain was sharp, but he couldn't afford to stop. But under Archer's focus, she dodged effortlessly, her movements fluid and precise. Lin Tian gritted his teeth. This is getting annoying, he muttered, diving behind more rubble. Emma's arrows tore through the rubble like paper, forcing Lin Tion to stay on the move. But before he could act, an arrow pierced straight through a minotaur, narrowly missing him. Too close, he muttered, retreating further. Emma's strength was fading. The archer's focus drained her stamina and life force rapidly. She gasped for breath, her vision blurring. He felt a lingering fear. Is that woman using the bow like a barret? Damn, if not for the stone wall slowing it down, I wouldn't have been able to dodge. Brutal. Go and knock down the bell tower. Lin Tion quickly shouted. Luckily, he had that guy, otherwise, he would have been stuck here. Hearing this, Brutal charged towards the bell tower like a mad dog. Most of the buildings were made of wood. Under his frenzied attack, the bell tower began to sway. Eventually, it collapsed into rubble. Seizing the opportunity, Lin Tion aimed a poison attack at Emma.